to you all as the Christmas is nearing as I record this episode. Very excited. Love this time of year. It's a great chance to be with family, kind of recenter yourself on the things that matter most and gain some more clarity on what you're going to do differently moving forward. That's one of the things that I love about the end of the year. It's a natural time to reflect, evaluate, make some plans. Let's pivot. Let's refine some things so that we can see a better outcome at the end of next year. And that's what's cool. Very excited about that. But welcome to the show, you guys. Episode number 91 of the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast, where, as you know, we provide actionable strategy and tactics that you can apply to your practice to help you grow and scale, to serve more patients, and ultimately leave a greater impact, because that's why we're here. That's why we're here. It's just to help other people. And my name is Mark Thackeray. So excited to have you with us today, wherever you're listening on this wonderful day. As I'm looking outside, my house, my backyard faces the mountains, the Wasatch Mountains in Utah. And we have a little skiff of snow on the mountains that I can see. So we haven't gotten too much snow, which is a little disappointing as we're ending the end of the year, the calendar year. So hopefully 2025 has a bit more snow up its sleeve. I think it will. But it is still a really nice day. Despite it being a little bit warmer, it's fun. So anyway, let's get into it. I've got a fun little episode that kind of, I had this idea as I was evaluating one of my clients' practice and just looking at, okay, let's take inventory of what we've done this year. And it's been a good year. It's been a really good year, actually. But let's look at some of those things. We've tried a lot of different campaigns. Let's try and identify those things that have been the most successful. And as I was thinking about this, the Pareto principle came to mind. So if you're not familiar with the Pareto principle, it's sometimes the 80-20 rule or 80-20 principle. This was named after an Italian economist named Vilfredo Pareto, who observed that there's a connection between the number, your inputs and your outputs. Essentially, he noted specifically this was what he was studying the land in Italy. He noticed that 80% of the land there at that time, and at the end of the end of 1800s, so 1896, he noted that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the population. And he applied this theory in different areas of his. He saw that even in his garden, 20% of the pea pods contained 80% of the peas. And so he saw this interesting relationship, and it wasn't always exactly the thing to remember with the 80-20 rule. It's called the 80-20 rule, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to break out 80-20 or 20-80. What it means is that a few select inputs will account for the majority of the outputs. Okay, so there's going to be a few key factors that bring in or produce 80% of the work, or 80% of the results, or the lion's share or the majority of the results. And we see this all the time in our daily lives. We you look at your phone. Take your phone, for example. You probably use 20% of the apps on your phone 80% of the time. And as I say that, it's probably even more skewed. It's probably 10% of the apps 80% of the time, right? If you were to look at that breakdown. Because we have so many apps now, that's part of the reason. But it's also it's interesting because we only use a select few, and you see that too in the clothes you wear. You probably wear 20% of your wardrobe is worn 80% of the time. You have those go-to clothes, the outfits that you like, you're comfortable in. They look good on you, or whatever it is. You use those the majority of the time. Same with your friends, your social circle. You see 20% of their friends 80% of the time you go out. So it's just interesting how this rule pops up in your life. And the reason why it's so interesting is that it can make our life that much more simple. And when there's simplicity, there's power, because now you can really dive in, you can dig deep, you can drill down and into that, and that whatever those key inputs are, and do something really special, because you're channeling all your efforts and your investment in those things that have proven to work really well. And then it helps you also clarify, it helps you cut out those things that frankly are not yielding the results, and so you can free up more time, but also helps you double down on those things that are proving to be successful for you. And when you take this and apply this into the dental industry, or a dental practice, for example, you see immediately some of the big benefits of that, right? I mean, we're always strapped for time. When you step into the office and you're wearing 6 different hats and you're being, called to do all these different things. And so anytime that you can kind of buck that trend and free up more time, not only free up more time, but it's also taking it off your plate entirely, so that now you don't even have to think about it's not even taking up space anymore. That's the neat thing about this, is it's simplicity to the point where it's so liberating. It's not just, you don't have to do that today or this week, but it's forever. Like, you can go that deep with it. And that's the real cool thing about this. So again, I kind of looked at this, looking at this for one of my clients. And again, they've had a really successful year, but we're always trying to improve. We're always trying to refine. And so we're looking to try and identify those key inputs. What is the breakout look like for the practice? We're specifically looking at new patients, but you can apply this in so many different areas of your practice. It doesn't have to be just in new patient acquisition or in marketing. It can be other things. It can be in your employees, for example. There's going to be those people, and we've all experienced this in our life, most likely. I remember when I was working just in college, I just got married and I took a job at the bank because I needed health insurance. And it's not because I was super excited about finance or anything else. It was solely because I needed health insurance now that we were married. And so I did that, but I noticed something, I think it's partially because, not partially, but I know I grew up in a family where we worked quite a bit. My dad really enjoys work. My mom really enjoys work. And so it's been kind of passed on whether we liked it or not. And now, as I've gotten older, I've realized that, yes, I do. I do enjoy work. Like, it's never been too much of a challenge for me. And so when I was at the bank, I just naturally did a lot of work. I kind of tried to go above and beyond. Part of it is like, I'm here, I might as well do a good job. But I also realized that, hey, maybe I could make a little extra money if I, get a raise and stuff like that. Really maximize my time. But what was interesting is that, you look at, I was just a teller, so nothing fancy, but you'd have different tellers and you'd see from a production standpoint which ones would produce the most. And you see that in all different types of jobs, right? There's going to be a few key people that produce the majority of the results, or at the bank, there were a few key people that did the majority of the transactions just because they were efficient. They liked what they did. They were on top of things. They were constantly looking for those opportunities. So you can do this with your employees too, is my point, is that you can look at your employees and see, for example, like it could be on reviews specifically, which employees generate or account for the majority of the reviews, are the ones that are asking for the review, that their names are mentioned. You can look at it in that way. Or you could say, which one of my employees are, typically, commit the fewest mistakes or something. And you can, that probably wasn't a good example. I wouldn't want to harp on that but anyway, just you looking at it from that point of view and identifying who are those people that are doing the best, on your team. And it's interesting too, because it's not just, you see this in sports all the time where, the top players aren't just 1 or 2 times better than the others. They're 10, 12, 15, 20 times better than some of the other ones, right? The ones that, even though on the chart, if you were to rank them, player number 1 versus player number 10, or even sometimes player number 1 versus player number 2. And that's not only in sports, but also like sales. You see it different occupations and professions, but the difference between 1 and 2 can be massive. It's not just, they're 20% better. Sometimes they're 20 times more effective, and so So that's why we look at these things this way, is to start to hopefully uncover some of these insights that can really propel you into the future and make your practice that much more profitable, yes, but also free of clutter, clear, and a lot more streamlined, and just it feels better. Like, I want to say holistic, but I don't know if that's the right word. But hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. But let's look at it too from a marketing standpoint. This is what I was doing for this practice, and I've since done it with some other practices as well. Is I just was zeroed in on their new patients, and I just pulled it up, so I'm seeing, for new patients, 753,000 in production, a little bit more than that, but over 750,000 in production. Okay, and I've taken all those and broken down the referral sources. And it's interesting because we have, let me just count how many different sources there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's 17, 18 different referral sources we have listed. And of those, there's a good 3 that account for, let's see. So I've got, Facebook. No, that's not one of them. So we've got Instagram. He's big on Instagram. He's big on Google, and he's big on patients. So like patient referrals. So you look at those ones, and you could add those ones together, and you've got over 60% of his production is just of new patients. Is coming from those different ones. So patients, Instagram, and Google. Fascinating, right? I mean, he's doing TikTok. He's doing, he's done Smile Virtual. He's done, obviously different, SEO and referring other doctors and Facebook and all these different other things. But the ones that are driving the most for his practice are those, Instagram, Google, patient referrals. Okay. Actually, a little bit more than that. Sorry, there was a subcategory that falls under that. So 72%. 72%, which is very interesting, right? I mean, and if you look at referrals in particular, and this is probably going to be the case for a lot of practices, not all, and that's why we look at it, because I'm not just going to hop up here and step up here and say, hey, it's going to be this, this, and this, because it's different. It really is different per practice. So you have to look at it and see. But for this particular practice, 37% of all new patient production came from referrals, and that's not uncommon. But you think of, now, what are we doing to encourage more referrals? And they've got some good things in place. They've got a really strong brand, a really strong kind of persona that they do, that they promote, that they articulate on their website, and when they get face to face and in person and in the videos, they do a really good job. So certainly there's that element, but are there additional things that we could do to help stimulate even more referrals? Because when you look at, so that's one that, that stuck out to me too, is, okay, let's spend some time looking at how to generate more referrals. Are we investing in our patients so that we can, with a specific intent to reinforce that relationship and to generate referrals? And when we do that, typically what we find is that they're going to stay patients longer, and they're going to refer more people, both of which add tremendous profitability to our practice, especially the former. They stay longer because we've already invested in getting them in there. If we can just get them to stay longer, our profitability goes way up. It's really cool. So that's, when we're looking at it, but there's so many different ways to break this down, because then I'm looking at, okay, well, neat that, not too surprising that we have those referrals, but when I look at the referral sources, that particular category of patient referrals, now I can break that down too and see that there's a handful of referrals. There's literally like 3 different people that are producing most of those referrals, and so that's another huge insight, because now you can take that and say, well, man, I really should make sure that I am, one, recognizing those individuals, because they just basically sent me, $150,000. Awesome. Between those three people, that's pretty amazing. But also, I bet too, I would venture to get a guess that if you spent time with them or demonstrated that gratitude on a regular basis, they would send you even more referrals. They're just ambassadors. I mean, some people have that gift, that they are the connectors. And if you do a good job for them, they will sing your praises night and day until the day they're laid to rest. And so that's what's cool, again, about looking at these, doing these reports, looking at this critically and seeing who are those people, and now what can we do to help let them know how much we appreciate them, and make it easy for them to refer people in the future. So that's one category, or one referral source, is patient referrals. The other one too, and you can take any one of these and apply the 80-20 principle to that specific referral source. So you take Instagram, or you take, let's say, Google Ads, and say, okay, of the campaigns that we're running, which ones are generating most of the results? And there's always going to be that breakdown. It's never even, Steven, across the board. It just never is, and so you can look at, sometimes it's just one campaign. And then I've got a practice too that's just running one campaign, and that's all where they're getting all their stuff. And you could break that down further and say, okay, well, of that one campaign, which keywords are driving the most results? Which of those keywords? And then that can inform your decisions on, okay, we need to focus more on this, either through our messaging or, landing page content, videos, things like that. It gives so much clarity into things that you can do to better that performance. And that's what gets me so excited about this, is because you're looking at things and you're able to just shed all these layers that don't matter as much. I'm not saying that some of these, like I look at this practice, he's gotten some from TikTok. I'm not saying that couldn't be nurtured and grown more, but I'm saying that he's already built it up with Instagram. So why would you invest time in doing all these other things when that's already humming for you? It's already going strong. So you focus on where your strengths are, and where you've already invested resources. And, of course, if something happens to his account or something, you have to pivot and you have to do those things. But what I'm saying is, it's so easy to get sidetracked by shiny objects when it comes to marketing, like this new tool or this new platform or this or that you get spread too thin and you don't go deep enough with one particular one. And as a result, it just doesn't yield a whole lot of results. None of them yield a whole lot of results if you're not going deep enough with them, And so that's the importance of this topic is that you can evaluate those things, identify the winners, keep doing more of what's working, stop doing less of what's not. If you were to boil it down, that's kind of what it looks like. But it is cool once you dive into this stuff and you can start to see, okay, these campaigns are the ones that are working. This messaging, this approach, this offer, those are the ones that are generating the phone calls. Those are the ones that are getting people in the door and patients in the chair. That's what we're talking about. And that's so powerful. Okay. So there's a couple of things I just wanted, really mostly just planting the seed, because a lot of these reports that you can do in your practice management software, they typically have, some type of label or tag that you can apply to new patients in terms of where they came from, referral source, things like that. And then you can just pull it and then sort it by those, just export it into a CSV or an Excel file, and then you can manipulate that into, as far as just sorting all the data so it's easier to look at. But I wanted to share this one because it is cool. Like, I do this for my business, but also for my clients. And you can really go so deep with it. Like, when you get into, so like some of those different campaigns, or let's say patients that are generating the most production, but you can also see, okay, of those ones, of that 20%, let's say, there's still a breakdown of those ones. There's still those, ones that are, there's 20% of the 20% that are producing the majority of results. And so you can keep breaking it down. and it's it's really cool. I don't want to geek out on it too much, but yeah, it's really all about identifying those key drivers so you can focus more effectively and reduce time spent on marketing and reduce cost on marketing in those places that aren't really producing the results that you need. So I've kind of done this with some other clients. I've seen, okay, one practice, 80% of their new patients came from one marketing campaign, just one. They've tried a bunch of different things, but it's the one that's been tried and true, and it's been consistent over the past 12 months. Very interesting, right? I mean, it's not to say that we're not going to do other things, but you want to make sure that we're still, maybe there's other, levers that we can pull with that one campaign to drive even more. I mean, that's where we're going to focus efforts first, and then we can move outward from there. Cosmetic dentist, 85% of his leads are coming from paid social media campaigns. 85%. Wild, General dentist, 70% of new patients come from referrals. I mentioned that. I'm not super surprised by that. But when you break that down, roughly 75% of those referrals come from 10% of the patients. Again, you've got those key ambassadors, those connectors, those people that love your practice, they love what you do, they have that relationship, and they're so willing to share it with other people. And those you got to take care of. You got to identify these winning campaigns or these winning channels or winning, whatever you're focused on when it comes from a marketing standpoint, and then do more of those things. Yeah. Okay. So and we could go deeper, and you can look at it from a patient perspective too, as far as, hey, these are the type that I hit it's a home run every single time. And you look at things like demographics and psychographics and the services that they want to do, or let's say you find that you're mostly family based, then that is a great indicator that you should focus more on family oriented marketing. So you just can go so deep with this stuff, but that's mostly what I wanted to share today. Hopefully I came across clearly enough to make it easy to understand. I know I get excited about this, but hopefully it was clear enough. There's a couple of things too that you should watch out for. I've mentioned a few already. Trying to do everything is top of the list. We get so excited at the opportunities. We hear that this practice is doing really well on TikTok, or this one is crushing it on Google Ads, or this one's always number one in SEO. And so we're like, oh, I got to do that. I got to do that. I got to do that. Or we just hear people tell us, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. So you feel like you need to do all the things. That's a trap. You don't want to fall into that where you feel obligated to do things just because you're told you should. You got to select those campaigns, those efforts that align with who you are and are realistic for you and your practice. There's people that for years, everyone said, oh, social media. And yep, social media can be a very effective tool for you. But is it for everyone? No, it's not. Because for those people that they're just dreaded. That's the last thing on earth that they want to do is post on social media. It doesn't work for them. They try it because they know they should. They last about a month or 2 months, and then it goes dark. And yeah, they're like, that was dumb. It's a waste of time for them. But it could work for someone else. So you really just got to avoid that trap of trying to do everything. The other thing that people avoid is that they just go on instinct. They think, well, yeah, of course, no, my practice is like this, and they just go off gut feel instead of looking at and dissecting the data. It's got to be empirically based, so that you can take emotion out of it, take influence from your people in your practice, things like that, and just look at the data. And with some grain of salt. I'm not going to say it's going to be 100% perfect, because humans we're inputting that data a lot of times, and patients can forget too. Like, I've seen you in different places, whatever, but it does give you a general idea. There's enough data there if you're keeping somewhat track of this that you're going to have a really solid idea of where people are coming from. And the other thing is once you discover those things failing to do anything. You look at, patients, a lot of practices know that patient referrals or referrals in general, whether that's referring doctors or patients or otherwise, constitute the majority of their new patients. But then they don't do anything about it, right? They just think, well, I'm continuing to do a good job once they show up, we treat them well, do, very solid clinically, and that's great. But once they leave your practice, are you making it easy for them to refer people? Because they're not thinking about your practice as soon as they're out the door. They're stoked that they're moving on, and they're not, oh yeah, I should, who can I refer over to Dr. Johnson today? They're just not thinking about that, right? So if you give them opportunities to think about it, that could be through some type of campaign, a thank you, something as simple as a thank you note. Could be an email. It could be a video. There's endless ways. It's just, you can be as creative as you want, but it's those people that fail to take action on that knowledge that's a big pitfall as well. So you might find out what it is that's working and then just not doing anything about it. Okay. So those, that's takeaways really for this particular podcast is analyze your current marketing efforts and identify the top percentage, the top 20% or the top campaigns or efforts to drive the majority of your new patient. Again, you can look at it different ways. That can all be specific to new patients, could be to overall production. There's lots of ways you can slice this, but analyze those efforts to find what's working best. Okay. And then invest more time, more budget into those high performing strategies. And then the last one, which is hard to do, I get it, especially if someone in your practice is really married to the idea. You want to let go of those low performing channels and, again, kind of focus your efforts on those that are already working. And it's going to be tough because you're still going to have that nagging feeling, I should be doing this. But try and fight that. If you need to, you can go little by little and slowly pinch those off, so that you're still doing some, but you just don't invest as much, or you don't do it as frequently, or however you want to set that up. But just you need to start pinching those off. Okay, start small, and then go from there. And then you'll just review this. Because it's not going to always stay the same, but it's fun. I don't know. I just think it's exciting because then you have so much more clarity on what you're trying to do. Anyway, so that is it, my friends. I feel like I've been all over the place a little bit with this one, but it's something I am passionate about because of what it can do for your practice and how it can guide you moving forward with confidence, because it's based off stuff that's worked. Okay. And that's really what its success is in your practice is all about, is finding those things that you can count on, and moving forward again and again, because there's so much change, and change is exciting. Like I said, it's kind of the shiny object syndrome. Like this came out, maybe I should jump on that. That came out, maybe I should do that. But you really want to bank on those things that you can do again and again, so this helps you do that because you're looking at data that's worked for you. It's data for your practice. So very, very cool. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd love to walk you through something. If you want to walk through your analysis and just look at some of those areas and then brainstorm on different things that you can do, I'm all game. I'm all ears. So just reach out, Mark, M-A-R-K, at markthackeray.com, MarkThackeray. Put that in the show notes in case you have any questions. If you've liked these episodes, or this episode in particular, I would love a review. Just post that wherever you're listening to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, all the different outlets. That would be tremendous because that helps me find or get access to more people that need some help. So anyways, thanks for joining me today. And let's go do some Power Pareto Principle stuff. It didn't come out right, but 80-20 stuff for the future. And I'd love to hear how it goes for you too. Once you start applying this, then let me know. Keep me posted. Till next time, my friends, be good.